Hello there, I'm Big Alias. We're going to talk about a game, but we're going to do it quite late. This is Battlefield 6. I didn't review Battlefield 6 when it came out, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure, I know I did review the beta, and I think during the beta I was like, when the full game comes out, we'll review that, we'll already get to grips with it. I just didn't, and there's no real reason for that. I just didn't get around to it. I've been tremendously busy, and sort of, there's been a lot going on in this time, so I haven't really been able to get around to that. However, I think it might be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because the game's changed a lot. Sentiment has changed even more towards this game. The way that people feel about this game is not the way that people used to feel about this game, and I unfortunately don't mean that in a very positive way, which is a shame, because it was going to be the next big thing. I have been a Battlefield fan for a long time, and I was having blast with it. Now I want to talk about this game. So during the beta phase, I was on a bit of a different page to everyone else, in a sense, in that I saw that I recognized that it was good and it could be good. I just wasn't as hooked as everyone else on this experience, and it was honestly just a little bit annoying that everyone was just so hyped up and gassed up about this game, and I'm sat there thinking, what is it that you're so hyped up and gassed up about? Beyond what is a good game. I thought it was a good game and a great experience, but I just didn't get what this huge force behind it was. And then when the game launched, I did understand it. Now, we're not talking about the campaign. I suppose this is a bit of a review, so the campaign, it's not great. It's not a good campaign. It flashes past you. Nothing really happens of note. I mean, a lot happens. I just couldn't tell you what it was. Couldn't tell you who the antagonist is. But I will say this, to Battlefield Studios' credit, or whoever developed it, I really appreciate that they just made a 7th gen campaign. They just went, screw it, yeah, we're just going to make a classic 7th gen FPS campaign. I'm sure the decision didn't have as much confidence behind it as I'm making out. I'm sure it was more these people, they want a nostalgic thing, we'll do that. But I still appreciate it, and the fact is I finished it. I had a good time playing it. It was very generic. They didn't do anything with it that wasn't done in the 7th gen, but I still had a good time with it, and so it deserves its credit for the sake of that. However, I wouldn't say that it is a game that's worth getting just for the campaign. I'll say that with a lot of confidence. However, the multiplayer is where the fun is at, and of course there is Battle Royale now, which a lot of people just sort of haven't adopted. I certainly haven't. I don't really play Battle Royales anyway, so it just was never going to do anything for me. But yeah, we have the multiplayer, of which I mostly play Conquest. I do, and it's been out for a few months now. So it's been out for 4.5 months now, I think. I believe we're on season 2. And my time with Conquest, like I said, at first playing the beta, I didn't really get it as much as other people. However, when I played the full game, when I had that full experience, and it was oh, this is the full suite, this is everything, really opened up for me. And actually, I had a fantastic time with this game. The first few weeks of this game were absolutely fantastic. I really thought, oh, this is going to be my main game. I'm not going to be able to put this thing down. And I wasn't able to put it down. I was having such a fantastic time with this game. And I can't take that away from it. Your first few hours with this game are tremendous. It has excellent gameplay. It's very fast, very furious. There's always something happening, and I like that in games. I like a game where it's just look, it's going to be an action movie the entire time, but it still had that scope and scale of a Battlefield game. It felt like the opposite of 2042, which had too much scope and too much scale. Maybe not enough scope, actually, because scope would imply some sort of a graphical intensity too. But the huge amounts of scale to the point where there was just no energy and no pace and no action. Whereas here, it's all energy, all pace, all action, but it is condensed down. And as such, you have such a great time within the first few hours. And I will say, eventually over time, that that intensity does wear off just a little bit. But what you're left with is still a great game. Still a great game with gameplay, great gunplay, good progression, good leveling progression. And I only say that because if you're regular to this channel, you know how important progression in video games is for me. And I mean number go up progression is for me. I love it, and it's here. Your number does go up. However, one big issue with this game, and an issue that a lot of people have had with this game, is that of course, unlocking new skins and stuff for your weapons and attachments, it just takes too long, and I didn't experience much weapon progression And I have played this game for a fair few hours at least. Like I think I put a day at least into this game, and I've experienced barely any progression in terms of like weapon stuff. And for a lot of people, that is the core progression. So that is an issue. But the gameplay, again, absolute blast, constant Michael Bay action movie, having a fantastic time. However, the thing about that is, over time, yeah, you do begin to see the end of it quite quickly. It's something that, like, I don't want to say with much confidence, because, in reality, it should be happening with every game. It should be happening with Call of Duty and Halo and all of that. You do see sort of the end of, like, what the game is willing to offer you quickly, but it's willing to offer you a lot more than the average Call of Duty game does, which is why I don't know why I'm seeing it, as much as I am within this experience. But then again, I do see it with Call of Duty too. But yeah, you do sort of see like, oh, this is going to happen and this is going to happen, and I'm going to put a kit down here, etc. And I think that's why like a lot of veteran Battlefield players, of which really I should be, but I'm very on and off with the series, have different ways to like interact with the game. It's a lot more versatile for them. But for the average player, yeah, you are going to see that sort of ceiling quite quickly. And with so much competition going on, arc raiders and what have you, I think a lot of people just sort of flew the nest. And of course the big issue, and the reason why I think it's a bit of a blessing in disguise that we talk about this game now rather than when it came out, is that post-launch content is big for a game like this. And unfortunately, it's the approach of a live service game now to offer you as bare minimum as possible on launch, and then pack it out as time goes by. And the map suite was never big for this game, and it hasn't expanded as much as I would want it to, or other people would want it to. I think we have 3 new maps, and the big issue, the big problem that plagued this game from the start and is somehow still continuing to be an issue, is the issue of sameness and repetition. And I don't just mean in terms of gameplay. The maps look pretty cool. I wouldn't say they're the most incredible maps I've ever seen, but they look pretty cool. But man, do they all look the same. They are all just urban environment, dirt, grass, mud, concrete. This is what you're getting. Green, brown, grey, brown, green. And that's your color palette for this game. They really don't explore much visually in terms of map design. They didn't from the start. I remember, some of these maps are completely impossible to tell apart from one another. Well, maybe not impossible, but difficult. And that shouldn't be the case, but particularly with such a small suite of maps. I would say the only map that really did anything for me in terms of post-launch content is the like golf course one. That was quite fun, and including the golf buggies I think was great. Although even then there are still areas where it's like, oh, this is kind of exactly what I've seen before. This is, they're sort of repeating the process again and again and again and again, and we're seeing so much of the same stuff, the same buildings, same layouts, same interiors. And yeah, there's destruction, but they get destroyed in exactly the same way. There's nothing new here from map to map to map. And I remember the old, Battlefield games, you have like a snow map, and you'd have a deserty map, and then you'd have a jungle map, and you'd have an urban map. And there were all of these different, like underground train station with Operation Metro. All of these different environments, Siege of Shanghai. They did so much. And here, it's just so samey, and I don't even know how they got away with this. Like, I don't know how the people at the top were like, yeah, that's okay, let's just make all the maps look the fucking same. But they do. All of the maps somehow, in the year of our DICE 2025, when this game came out, all of the maps looks exactly, well, not exactly the same, but very similar. And now we've continued down that path with the very few maps that we got. 2 out of the 3 look like maps from the base game because they all look the same. And unfortunately, the newest map is pretty cool. And I actually am one of the only people who likes the sort of oil rig map. But, well, not oil rig, but like out in, the deserty, not even deserty, but middle of nowhere kind of oily map. I like it, but I've seen it a billion times, not just in this franchise, but in this game. It's offering me nothing new, and I think that's the big issue here, is the game's inability to offer me something that feels new and feels fresh, and they just haven't been able to do that. The whole point of a live service game is to make the game feel alive, and the cost of that is you get less content at the start, but you do get this living, breathing ecosystem of a game, and it just doesn't feel that way when you're just piling on additional maps that just look exactly the same as the ones that you have now. It doesn't really do anything for me. So when you look at it, it is a great game, and if you're okay with sameness and things like visual language don't matter to you, then it's a tremendous game. But its biggest flaw is that it's a lot of the same stuff. There's a lot of repetitive strain happening here, and it feels like they're not really doing anything to fix that. And the post-launch content isn't really hitting. It's not hitting me, and it doesn't seem to be hitting many of the fans, so that's a real issue too. It's something that DICE can work on, but I heard Westy say that they've lost all of their momentum, and I would agree with that. It feels like that momentum that had us all so hyped up when Battlefield was coming out does seem to have washed away a bit, which is such a damn shame because it was a fantastic game. But they fumbled it, as we've seen so many times before. We saw it at Halo Infinite, and now we're seeing it with Battlefield and many others in between. But yeah, that's Battlefield 6, and that's that. I will see the whole lot of you later.
The PlayStation is only $149, and you can also get leading titles.